In a recent video, I made mention of how easy it is to get discouraged when you look at somebody else that's talking about how great their business is, maybe giving you ideas about how to grow yours, and you're looking at the scale and the size of their business and you're thinking, maybe they're lucky, or how in the world do I ever get there, or they must have had some advantage that I didn't have. Who knows what you and I probably have thought over the years when we see somebody else that's way down the road, way ahead of us. So I thought it would be interesting to show you a couple pictures of where I started. So this would have been about late 2004. And I don't have the exact pictures, and I really regret that I didn't take pictures of the team and of our setup in the very beginning. So for those that know me, I was in the lawn care business from about 15 to my freshman year of college. I got out. Then I was out for quite a while, and I got back in the business late 2004. So the truck you're seeing on the screen was my very first truck. And the piece of equipment here, the Cushman, was my very first piece of equipment. And they did not look good. Now, these two pictures I didn't take. I went and found a couple pics on Google that look very similar to what I had. And the way I ended up with this setup is I bought this equipment off somebody just to get started. And that was 10 years ago now, and it looked old back then. So you can only imagine how we first looked. Then a little later, we took over there was a big commercial property that we took over, and they were doing their own maintenance, and their maintenance team took care of 9 properties. We took over all 9 of those commercial properties. They were doing it in-house, and we bought their trucks and equipment. So my second truck was a beat-up F-150 that had just been beat to death, and it had about 150,000 miles on it. The interior was covered in dirt and grease, and I'm sure they smoked in the truck. It was a mess. I mean, it had a giant dent in the back tailgate from a trailer, and then on the side it had a dent behind the opening third door, I guess you'd call it, because it was an extended cab. That's where I started. Nothing was wrapped, nothing was painted, all my trunks were junk. Then I went to another used truck, which was a older F-150, like an old body style F-150. I mean, 3 generations ago now, and that was my third truck. And after that, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th truck, that's when they started to get better. I was still buying used, but they started to improve. That was the beginning of the business. That's how I got started. And I so wish I had the pictures now, because people that come onto the team now have no idea what it was like in the beginning. All they see now is a big organization that runs pretty well. It's not perfect, but they don't know what it took to get started. They don't know how hard it was. They don't know what we went through. They don't know how we would grind it out. They don't know where we started with hardly anything, and we had a little bit more. We bought a little more, and we kept making incremental improvements. Now what you see is a pretty interesting organization, but it took a long time to get here, and there was no way I could picture this. And my early team, there's no way they could picture this 10 years ago and say, this is what it's going to look like someday. We didn't even know how we were going to get here. At first, we just wanted to get to 1,000 clients, and that seemed like this insanely monumental task of how am I ever going to do that? Because there were hardly any companies that were that size in our local market, and so it just seemed really ambitious. But the way became present, or we could see the way as we slowly made more and more progress, as we had a little bit more money, as we had a little bit better people, as we had a little bit better equipment. It's like, oh, I see how I can get to the next level, and then the next level, and the next level. And then one day you look back, you're like, wow, I cannot believe where we came from. So most of us that weren't handed a whole lot of money in life and didn't have some form of advantage all started with a pretty boring, uninteresting setup, and we progressed from there. And that's how it happens. And the guys giving you advice and the big companies you're looking at, some had few advantages, but most probably didn't, and they just did the time, and they did the work, and they reinvested and worked their butt off. Be optimistic and make it happen.